Hi, everybody. Thank you for being part of Drumfield Cafe. If you're new in the channel, I invite you to go on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to subscribe. We also have since December 2020 our website. So it's www.drumfieldcafe.com. There's a lot of information there. You will find out all the interviews we've done. There are sometimes some contests. There's specific information about the channel. There's also, like as a normal magazine, some editorial and some article. You can go look at it. So you're more welcome to go check that out. If you speak French or Spanish, we also have like a French version and a Spanish version. That one is new since 2021. So I really invite you to go check that out. The other thing, we're almost done. I'm inviting you also to keep in touch with us all summer. But just to let you know, the season 3 will end up in end of April. So after that, we're gonna have a few surprises. So I invite you to connect with us for see what's gonna go next. So let's go with our first artist today. A lot of stuff to talk about. So let's start with a little short bio. He wrote a book, Puzzle, Rhythm, and Riddle. We're gonna talk about that with him. He also have I have a course available on Drumeo. He studied with Freddie Gruber. That's a pretty interesting topic I want to touch to. He has his yoga practice, mind-body connection. So we're gonna talk about that too. He's also doing drum clinics all over the world. Of course, during the pandemic is another thing, but like normally he's touring all over the world. He's a drum teacher from home. He's a full endorsee like DW, Zildjian, Vickford, and Evans. Let's go say hi to Bruce Becker. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being part with us. It's super nice.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man.
It's very cool. I want to mention to the audience, you contacted me and I knew you by name, but I didn't, we never met in person. And I was super interested so you'll be on the show. And I start to read your bio and I realized you did so much stuff. I mean, so much stuff, but completely different things too. Like at the same time, like recording, teaching. So it's pretty nice. You're like a really good example of all over drummer. And we talk about that too today, like those approaches.
Yeah. Well, it's as I say, I ran two paths for many years on the same, kind of the same track, kind of path playing, path teaching. And as things evolved in my life, I had kids way later. I'm an older guy, so I had my daughter when I was 54, which now she's 7 going on 8. My son when I was 57. So, and he's 4.5 going on 5. So as those things kind of happened, and I was already a very passionate teacher, it just kind of rolled over into more teaching and less playing. And now before that, I had, a long time role with my brother David, our band called the David Becker Tribune, whereby I recorded 10 CDs and we toured and did a lot of jazz festivals. And, recorded with great labels, like real labals, not vanity CDs. No, I know. To put that down, but, we were with MCA Jazz, and then we were with Blue Moon Records. And, through that, I got a chance to do some other work. I worked with Barbara Dennerlein, this B3 organist in Germany when I lived over in Europe, and I worked with her for over about 2.5 years. Other things, highlights of my career was I got a great opportunity to record with Ron Carter. I've recorded with John Abercrombie, Mike Stern. All for the same project. This was a project for a guitarist who was very influential and a very, let's say, a far-reaching figure. This guy named Attila Zoller, who was Hungarian by birth. And so, then the teaching just kind of rolled over, and I just really had already that passion. I was doing a lot of clinics over in Europe. I was, just always doing teaching here in LA. And when I moved into this house, it was like the lane just kind of switched over. So now I think it's about 7 years that I've been doing online teaching, which is, of course, now pandemic, that's all I do exclusively. But leading up to that, I was still teaching. About 70% of my students are basically from other places. I have a few guys who are in the Southern California area that would still prefer to Skype just to avoid the traffic, or Zoom in this case. But now everybody's on that mode, and because
it's way easier. It's easier, and as you mentioned, your father.
Well, yeah, well, no, but the thing is I've really managed to bring my teaching facility, as you see my studio here, into the homes and have that same sensibility. My details and my observation skills are 100% on top. Wow. And that's just basically from teaching now. In 2021, I can say I've been teaching 39 years. I was teaching since 82 at a defunct music store that actually, ironically enough, that's where Freddie Gruber started to teach.
Oh, really? Okay.
And when I was a young teacher back then, one of my early students for a couple of years was a great drummer by the name of Glenn Sobel. So if you guys know who Glenn Sobel is, Glenn was one of my early students, as well as a few other guys from that period. But as time has gone on, it's changed. I see Glenn every now and again, but just very fortunate and just knocking on a floor tom to thank my lucky stars that I've been teaching online and have developed a certain personality for specifically technique, but as well as you had mentioned, my book, Puzzles, Rhymes, and Riddles, concepts as well. But many people know me for my technical exploits, so that's the bigger issue.
But talking about your book, I want to talk about that too, because I'm interested. Usually, I'm the kind of freaking person buying all books ever I can. I mean, I know I'm old school. Yeah. I love books for working out. I wrote a book too in 2012, and I still use my book even in the real version and paper, not on my computer. Sorry, I'm old school on that.
Right. Well, me too.
I don't know why I like to touch the paper and write notes.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about your book because it's kind of interesting. Just the puzzle, rhythm, and riddle solution in odd time phrasing.
Yes.
So I think it can be cool for drummer in our days because some drummer wants to only backbeat, of course, but when they want to improve their technique, there's maybe I'm wrong, but there's books super advanced and some book very for intermediate or beginner. Yeah. But I think in your book, what I understand is you can really build something from whatever level you are. Am I wrong or am I correct?
Let me I want to correct you. It's Puzzles, Rhymes, and Riddles.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just looking at little titles. So the puzzle section was basically putting pieces together of odd time groupings, all presented in a 16th note time signature. Okay. And built on kind of paradiddle stickings. And then the rhymes section were jazz phrasing with certain melodies. I use 4 different moves that are moves around the toms to create some melody against the ride cymbal pattern. I break it down in 4 at first. And then the last section actually is a section where you don't need to have a lot of technical exploits. What you need is just reasonable reading abilities. And that reading ability will basically affect you in learning to hear the subgroupings of groups of 3s, 5s, and 7s. And how do I define those? Because I stay in a 16th note bass. Okay. They are groups of 3s would be, for those who don't know, I'll just say a dotted 8th note figure. But what it means is like groups of 3 16th notes. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. Yep. If I do my 5s, they are the accentation of the first and third of 5 16th note groupings, which would be 1 E. It's early in the morning. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and So what I basically do is I superimpose them together. So you might be playing 3 with your right hand, 7 with your left hand, over 4/4, and then eventually 3 with your right hand, a 7 in the bass drum with a backbeat on 2 and 4. And it just, again, it really promotes the recognition of that kind of phrasing, which can be utilized very nicely. I remember having a conversation with David Garibaldi, who was a student of mine for about 2.5 years, just more recently too. And he would go through the Gary Chafee book and take the C section of the sticking patterns book. Okay. And he would play those, hi-hat and snare drum. So for example, like a 5-note sticking right, left, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, left, putting it over 4 and play it in a 5-bar phrase. And at one point he said that, I think it was Doc Kupka went up to him and he said, "So what have you been working on?" He goes, "Oh man, I'm working on these like really cool odd phrasings." And Kupka looked at him and went, Not in our band.
No, not here. Don't do that. It's
Well,
illegal.
he could sneak it in there, but you just don't know that that's what it is. If you're
Wow.
thinking like that, if you're being structured and rhythmically clever, of course you can sneak it in there. It could be very musical. It's just, again, you don't want to go overboard and continually do it. And that's definitely, of course, that's not the style of Tower Power. It's very orchestrated in what David does. But again, I'm just saying. So my book kind of it really stimulates the ear to be able to identify those. And I say how it works is, you got to be able to read, and you put your eyeballs on there. And as soon as your hands start to respond to what you see, all of a sudden your ears step up to the plate. You go, oh, wait a minute, I can hear that. And then I have clever ways of helping to develop that, to push it forward so that it's not just one dimension. I like to add always a full rounded dimension to things, whether it's concepts or whether it's technique, whatever it is. I'm always thinking like, how many angles can I hit this from?
It's very interesting because I always talk with my student about things like that, try to sing the rhythm, try to hear them, try to feel them.
Yes.
Because the technique, it's important to read, and of course it's super important, but when you can develop like this, the full circle, and really be into it, it helps so much to play patterns like for example, claves on the left foot, for example, or cascara like on your right hand.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
If you go to technique, it's good to learn it, to read it, but if you can be able to see it and sing it and feel it, it's a good example. You just
it's important. Yeah. And those rhythms specifically, I call those the rhythms of the earth. Those are like those are the primary rhythms I think everybody needs to know. Just, whether you're going to go that direction and go and become this, left foot clave Latin playing guy, it's not really the point. The point is to understand the dimensions of the rhythms that are in there, because those rhythms are so well evolved, and they create patterns and things that you've already heard. And so why not get familiar with things that are, like I said, I call them from the earth, because, the folkloric element of that is so valuable.
It's like roots.
Yeah.
There are roots.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And continuing in that path, you did a DVD. The other one you told, can you talk about that a bit?
The DVD I did, I released that on my own in 2013. And that was just basically assembling just some concepts. It's called Concepts and Philosophies. Some of the inner workings of what I do to develop the inside of the hand. Reflecting back, it's good, and I love it that I did it, and it sort of pushed me forward. I'm one who doesn't rest on my laurels, so I'm always looking ahead. I've developed way more from that point in time, but that is available via Hudson. Streaming now. You can get that through Hudson, as well as my book. My book is available digital. I still sell the hard copy, so if somebody wants to get a hard copy, you can always contact me for that, because I, like you, like to hold a book. I really like the pages and that whole thing. And as you see, I've got, not a lot of books, but I have a couple, like a shelf of those are all drum books up there. So
yeah.
And I'm always looking around and going like, hey man, what's out there, and what haven't I seen before? I have two students that are very much into that. One guy's an adjunct professor at Wichita State. He's got multiple copies of books. And then the other student that's been a long-time guy with me is Ralph Johnson, the original drummer from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Wow.
And Ralph is a huge collector of books. He'll always be telling me about books. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that one, man. But
it's funny because I was collecting to the Modern Drummer magazine back in the day, and I have them all from I think for me, I'm like 1991, I think. 1990.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And one day when I moved out of my house a year and a half ago, and I couldn't keep them all. I kept the one I like, and the rest I'm like, okay, if they won't go in the trash, I'm gonna give them to someone interested. So one cool guy showed up to my house. It was a drummer, amateur bass player too, and he's like, I want them all, and he still read those. So I'm very happy because they have a second life.
Absolutely. I would hate to throw those too, man. That's something, of course, that you just want to kind of gift somebody so that they have the opportunity to go through all that stuff.
Yeah,
my same sentiments, exactly.
It's very cool because it's a lot of acknowledgement, a lot of stuff to learn. It's so rich on information. I remember the first one book of Modern Drummer wrote back then. It was the way to sit on your drum, and the angle of your legs, or your all your body, how you should sit down on your kit, and it influenced me a lot since then.
Oh yeah, super important, man. Now you're talking my lane in the highway. That's my huge lane, is talking about seating posture, positioning. I have a lot of different games. I have very firm philosophies on that, and they are tried and true. It's not stuff that I'm just arbitrarily coming up with. You're looking at how your anatomy works.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at, a lot of my students are in their 50s and 60s.
Okay.
I would say probably about 50 to 60% run that age range. And those guys always say to me, man, where were you when I was like 20? Because they've run into like that, oh, my shelf life is about to expire. What do I do to extend my playing?
Exactly.
And so as a result, I retool up, and it's amazing, man. I want to just say this, that, don't think that you can't change your habits. If you're, 40, 30, 40, 50, it's BS, man. I've got a lot of guys who will make that case, and, all over the planet. And it's a consistent theme. I've got these guys like 63, and this one guy, Frank, who's a student of mine, telling me, man, I've got all these guys who want me to play with them, and I feel I'm loosest I've ever felt. And it's like, that feedback to me is king, because that again reminds me that I'm taking it to the right path for guys like that,
Yeah.
And so I also say, because a lot of guys know me for teaching some high profile guys. I've had, students like Mark Schulman was a student of mine. Daniel Glass was a student of mine for a few years back in the 2007 to 10 era. Tristan Bowden is currently a student of mine. David Garibaldi studied with me. He stopped probably about not quite a year ago, but he was studying with me for about 2.5 years post his accident. He studied with me a little bit before, back in 2012, but then he wanted to really retool his game for technique. And so, and there's no end. It's like David's like, what is he, 74 now? And there's a guy who never rests on his laurels. He could be kicking back and going like, well, look, man, I've got this, voice from Tower of Power. I'm still playing with the band, although nobody's playing right now, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
And he could sit back and go like, what do I need to prove? And yet he is a staunch practicer, still writing out patterns, working. I think he's got a new book that he's working on.
Yeah,
he's just quintessential, what you say, man of the art, a guy who keeps pursuing and pushing forward. And I love that, because I think that that's the game. I approach life in a similar fashion. I'm always, retooling what I do, or being inspired to go different directions to make sure that my messaging is clear, because I have very comprehensive, digestible little bites, but every once in a while you run into somebody who doesn't quite get that. And I'm always looking at the perspective of, is a guy a field guy? Is he an intellectual guy? Is he an ear guy? And putting it into the context of getting it in there. So if I run into a wall, I'll go, let's see, what back pocket tricks do I have to get this guy here? Mm-hmm. And so that's my main motive. I always tell everybody in my initial email response to them is I am a passionate and I am results driven about what I do, because it's very important to pursue that. And, again, thankfully so, I've been able to connect with a lot of guys around the planet to engage in that. And that's been an honor and a privilege, and kind of carrying a little bit of a torch from Freddie Gruber. Because I was a long time Freddie Gruber student, probably for about a little over 7 years. And then I was a long time hang with Freddie. I was at the house as a regular guy. He'd always have me play for guys. I was so uncomfortable with that. Like, for example, I was there for many students, but a few that stand out were Steve Smith, to play for Steve Smith, or Dave Weckel, or actually that's how I met Tristan Bowden, Steve Houghton, a bunch of guys that had come over to kind of get, some information from Freddie. And then I happened to be there, and you go, Bruce, come on, sit down and play for these guys. And I'd be going like,
no way. I'll pass, but how was to study with him? How was a normal day, for example, like a lesson? Or...
Well, no normal days with Freddie Gruber, that's for sure. Well, when I studied with him, I hit him at the point where he was pretty well-oiled machine for Freddie. Now that, it sounds greater than it is, but Freddie was always sort of a run on his own time kind of a guy. But at the time I hooked up with him, which was just the end of 77, he was living in this little house, and he had acquired a pretty good reputation around town And he remained in that house. And once he moved out of that house, and this is also like just like he did that. There was a Modern Drummer story called Focus on Teachers that came out, I think, in March of '84, if I'm not mistaken. And it was individual stories with 5 teachers around the country: Pete Magadini, Murray Spivak, Freddie Gruber, a drum teacher who used to live up in Toronto, Jim Blackley, who one of my students from Humber College. I have a student at Humber who's an adjunct professor there, studied with Jim. And then a drummer by the name of Keith Kilgo, who I don't know exactly what his thing is, but he played in that band, the Blackbirds, in the 70s. They had a big hit called Walkin' in Rhythm. Anyway, this was pre that. So Freddie had kind of acquired this shtick and groove, and everything was going. It was pretty comprehensive, but he was still off schedule and very, very cantankerous, and ran late all the time. And, it was okay. I put up with it because I was very interested in his shtick and how he put things together. He was very comprehensive at that time, but very cryptic. It was very sometimes difficult to pull a straight line out of Freddie. Mm-hmm. And so after hanging with him post teaching, I watched him teach a huge amount of guys. I used to sit on the floor and hang, and he'd be talking to me, not the student, but the student was sitting next to him. And then when I moved to Europe in 1992, he was heartbroken. He followed me over there 2 months later. I moved in May. He was there in July, and he hung with me for about a month. And then he came over some subsequent trips, and we did a few clinics together, whereby I basically would demonstrate and talk a little bit. Although my speaking abilities back then were probably a little less confident. I was a little shy, I didn't know how to really put it together. But nonetheless, that's when I also started really getting active in doing my own clinics. I was a teacher down in Austria, Vienna, Austria, at a now defunct school for a year. That was in 94, 95. And that was a great experience too. That 1 year teaching in Vienna was like worth 7 years of teaching. I mean, it was really intensive. But so back to the topic of Freddie. Yeah, he was a none of a kind. He was an off dude, but had some really great insights and was able to put them together in a way that really infiltrated my imagination to what you can do with that. So where, I began and left off from Freddie, took a few years to process. And now I would just say, like, it's all, there's a few roots, and I'll always honor Freddie. I would never say, like, hey, man, I created it on my own. But I also got some goods from Jimmy Chapin.
Yeah.
I was a classical student at Cal State Northridge, so there's certain inputs I got from there. There was a great Latin teacher around town, Jerry Steinholtz, who was basically ensconced in hand percussion, but also bridging that gap of hand percussion to drum set playing. So I got a lot of that, too. So a few things rest in my head from those other variables. And then again, I was a good observer. I always had this headspace of watching how things work. And and then like I said, just taking it to different places and knowing after working for, I don't know, like I said, 39 years in 2021, I'll be teaching 39 years. And so after working for that many years, you better know what you're doing, or you get out, get off the boat, man. Yeah. So.
But it's very interesting what you mentioned too about you're a good observer. This is super important because a lot of musicians think, I'm a musician, I have good ears, I can hear everything. Yes, but there's also the other part. Use your eyes or use your ears as observer, like copy stuff, and imply those things to your own playing. Akira Jimbo was saying that long time ago. I saw him in a drum clinic. I think I was 16 years old, and he was mentioning how he copied Steve Gadd. And he's like, but I didn't want to be Steve Gadd. I only took what I wanted, like all the vocabulary, and I applied that to my playing. And if you look at him, Akira Jimbo doesn't look like a Steve Gadd player. You know what I mean? But it's so cool the way he observed all that and put all those informations to his own playing. And this is a very good point.
Well, I'm not the first one to say this, but I say imitate, assimilate, innovate.
Yep.
That's how you start. But I mean, in terms of the thing that I bring forward is a lot of people are technically challenged. And especially in this day of YouTube and Instagram, and you get a snapshot into some guy in his bedroom doing a great lick for, 3 minutes or whatever. And it's it's great, it's inspirational, but what does that have to do with you? So, and a lot of guys are technically challenged. There's just physical elements of opening up this mind-body connection, which is what I've been working on for years, through also yoga practice for many years, to be able to bring it forward so that the hands are more pliable. We have different elements of the hand. You know, you got the back part of the hand, you got the middle finger, you got the thumb and index finger, you got the French grip position, got the German, you got the American grip, you got traditional grip, all those little attributes in understanding how you can loosen those things up and get the mechanism to work will allow you to get that portion out of the way so you can get to hear and hear a little bit better and perhaps pursue that dialect, that one little nuance that you're looking to get into your playing. Because I see music as a language, of course, that's not anything new, but each contributor contributes a dialect. If you're talking about, you know, a language and you go to, for perhaps Germany, I'll just bring them up. You go to the north, they got a certain dialect. You go to the south, they got another dialect. You go to a little village just 20 miles away from the south, they got even a different dialect. And so those are all contributions to the language, just like a John Bonham's dialect versus a Mitch Mitchell versus a Dave Grohl versus a Bill Stewart and Alvin Jones. You want to get in there and kind of get into that headspace where you can go, oh, yeah, I get it. Like you said with Akira. Akira Jimbo, that's a great example of going in, dissecting a guy, extracting and making and finding the you in what you do, you know, and kind of building it from there. But the technical thing for me is always I see a lot of people very physically challenged, and there are guys who have horrible technique that does not take away from their musicianship. Their musicianship may be tried and true, and they're able to usurp that technical barrier, so to speak. And you look at him, you go like, God, I don't want to look at that guy because it looks like it hurts. Yet he's playing, you know, he's playing great stuff. But maybe he does hurt. You know, I don't know until people contact me, you know, what their issues are. I don't make like a play. Freddie Gruber would make a play and go up to you and be a real wise ass about it and go like, yeah, man, and Jesus, you're killing yourself. You know, you're gonna, you know. So that's not me. That's not how I work. I'd rather have people come to me. If you get the introductory lesson with me and you see how I do what I do via the internet Zoom. And like I said, the only thing I can't do in this room is I can't elbow you in the side. But when I can figure out that there's a button I can push on my keyboard that elbow will pop out of your screen and bump you in the side, then I've got 100%. But that game of technique is so important to really put forward and make it so that you have shelf life extended, that you have let's say, an injury-free approach to what you do. It's so important.
Yeah, it is important because injuries are everywhere. You just mentioned the technique, how you sit on your kit. Just the way you will put your right cymbal. For example, if it's too high, you can develop like a muscle, whatever problem here. You can have back problem. I remember I've seen long time ago, he dropped his seat, but Mike Portnoy was sitting super high back in the days. And I know friends, they tried to copy him and they developed some problem in their back, low back. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that we can chat. Hey, the time is flying. It's over. It's all over. Like, sorry about that. It's already 25. It's so fast. I told you at the beginning. Where the people can reach you for classes and see what you have to offer.
Just go to my website. It's www.brucebecker.com. There's a form if you're interested. You can email me, and I'll respond and just let you know what's going on. You can follow me on Facebook. There's a Facebook fan page. You can follow me on Instagram. I think it's Bruce Becker Drums, or all the monikers of that. I have a YouTube channel that's also Bruce Becker Drums. And I don't go for putting up a lot of content to compete in that area because that social media game is such a grind. But I put up some quality videos, and they're little small vignettes and insights. And if you're listening clearly and you're watching carefully, you'll get what it is I'm bringing forward. But if you want super comprehensive details and you really want to bring your game up, contact me. I'm for everybody. I don't want to put it out there. I teach David Garibaldi and only these guys. I have a lot of guys around the world. that seek out my tutelage to become a greater player. And that's my aim, is to push you up the ladder, not into the wall.
So you're an accessible person, teacher. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes,
that's
sir.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being on the show. You're a super cool person. I could chat with you for 1 hour. I swear I didn't see the time goes by. I have to respect some time frame for the concept of the show. But honestly, you're an amazing person, and just what you say make all sense to me. So I'm sure if there's student out there, they really like learning some stuff specific, you're a very good option for them.
I appreciate that, Eric, and thank you so much for what you do to the drum community, having this forum to bring some great drummers on and get some people to hear what they have to say as well.
So we're trying to. I wish you good luck with all that pandemic, and I stay safe.
Yes, sir.
Keep drumming.
Yeah. Oh, no, that'll never stop. All right, brother.
Bye-bye.
Peace, man. Peace.
Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Thank you for being with us. Yeah, if you want to learn a lot of things about Bruce, you can also check out his course on Drumeo. And if you want like to develop more specific things, like feel free to contact him. So let's go with our next guest. Hi everyone. So now we're back with our second guest. There's a lot of things to say about him. Just before, if you didn't know, we have a website running since December 2020. You can go check that out. It's www.drumfieldcafe.com. It's not just a website with like who have been in the show. Now we have editorial. There are sometimes some contests. We have a lot of information to talk about coming artists. You can also go check Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube of Drumfield Cafe. All the videos are on the YouTube and on the Facebook. If you didn't know, we are in the third season. We had 2 seasons before that one. They are all available. A lot of people ask me, yeah, but I don't have all the time. I don't have time for watch the videos all the time. So what could I do? You can download them. You can do a podcast of it, and you can listen to them. So we have like a French show, or like a show in English, and like right now it's brand new, a show since February in Spanish. So you can always discover new artists or known artists. We had Todd Zuckerman, Rick Latham, Daru Jones, and many others. So if you didn't know, go check that out, and you will see all the artists have been on the show since 1 year. So let's go with our artist, the second artist. There's a lot of stuff to say about him. Okay, so I will try to make it short. Drum books. He did 2 drum books. So The Long Way to Polyrhythms, The Long Way to Musical Phrasing on Drum Set. He played for a lot of artists like Kim Mitchell, Tom Scott, Dominic Thierno, David Blimaris, Roger Hodgson, Doug Riley, and many more. He performed at the PIT, NAMM Show, Montreal Drum Fest, Cape Breton Drum Fest, Quebec Drum Fest, à la Cosa. He was a teacher part-time at Humber College for more than 30 years. He was also writing several articles for Modern Drummer. He's a Gretsch, Vader, and Sabian, and Remo and Dorsey. Let's say hi to my friend Paul Delong. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm good, sir. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm very happy to having you on the show, Paul, because I respect what I told you before, but I really respect what you've done and what you still do, and you're a very good drummer, inspiring drummer.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You're not bad yourself.
Trying to practice the most as I can.
Yeah.
But today you are the star, and we talk a lot about. I think you are a very good example of how to touch all the sphere as drumming aspect. You wrote books. You're a teacher. You play with many artists. You played in known school. You did drum fest, drum clinics. You have endorsement. So I think for the young people, young blood watching the show, you're a good example. So, but before, I want to ask you at which age you started playing drums? You were like...
Yeah, I was like 12 or 13.
Okay.
And I was just self-taught for a long time. Didn't have lessons till I was 17.
Okay.
And then I didn't really, I really got into studying with, when I was 19, with Pete Megadini, who wrote the books on polyrhythms. Great teacher, and he lived in Toronto at that time, so I got into studying with him. And he opened up, I got to turn off my mail here. Can you hear that bing every time I...
No.
Okay, good. All right. But Pete opened up my eyes and ears to everything, and so eternally grateful to him for that. It was just great.
Yeah, Paul is amazing.
Mhm.
Great drummer, a great person too.
Yeah.
And when after that, did you jump playing in bands in an early age, or you were like more practicing in the basement? And what kind of guy you were at that time?
No, like when I was 14, I was already playing. I was playing in bands. I was always playing in bands. So since I started at 14, I never stopped. So yeah, always in a band.
That's great. It's a way to learn. In a way, it's real life.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah.
And have you done like classes in college or university or private or after that or after Pete or how was
Yeah,
it?
I never went to school, but a lot of private lessons with different teachers, particularly in the last half of my life. Like I got a grant to go study with Peter Erskine, which was
Wow,
amazing.
okay.
So
Wow.
I had lessons with Alex Acuna, Ed Shaughnessy, Tom Breckline, Joel Rosenblatt, a lot of people.
Wow.
And I still, like if I'm in New York or something, I'll get a lesson from Daphnis Prieto or Mike
Yeah.
Clark. I
Okay.
had a lesson with him. So yeah, so not school, but a lot of studying and a lot of work on my own, transcribing stuff, and just always a student of the drums.
Yeah, well, talking about transcribing, you wrote 2 books. That's a pretty good start.
Yeah.
How you became with those ideas? I worked on the first book that you wrote. I never worked on the second. So, but I cannot talk about much the second one. But how you became with those ideas in your first book, for example?
Well, the polyrhythm book, like when I studied with Pete Megadini, his polyrhythm books, they were called Musician's Guide to Polyrhythm. So
Yep.
they were all written on one line. So it was up to the drummer to apply it to the drum set.
Hands
So
or yeah.
yeah, so over the years I found all these different ways to play his stuff on the drum set. Like I came up with my own ideas, stuff I had heard, and one day a student said you should write a book. And I thought, well, it's not a bad idea. So I consulted with Pete and I said, Pete, do you mind if I write a book on polyrhythms, how I applied all your stuff? Because I didn't want to offend him. And he said, no, by all means, it'll only help sell my books as well. So that's how that happened, And but I had a big learning curve to learn. Finale was the program I had to learn. And Rick Gratton, my friend,
Yep.
he helped me. He knew Finale inside out, so he helped me get that together. And wow, it was a big job. Took me a long time. But and by the way, I will send you. Give me your address, email,
Yep.
and I'll send you my second book because the phrasing book I really like. I think it's good, so I think you'd like it too.
Cool.
So
I will be happy because we'll make an exchange. I'm doing my reissue of my first book, and I will send you a data copy. And you
great, that'd be
can have
amazing.
it, yeah, but it's cool because I remember the first book, and I work on it. And like you said, you can apply to different parts. It's like for me, was a kind of new breed thing. You can even sing your pattern with, you can play a backbeat and sing your like lines. And I remember when I was working your book was quite interesting to creativities.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like it.
Good, great.
And so, and the phrasing, how it's about, because I like I said, I never worked on that one. How you became with the second one?
Well, same thing. Accumulating. I'm huge on phrasing, and years ago I wrote an article for Modern Drummer called "Rhythmic Transposition" about phrasing, and that was 1995, and they liked it, so they published it. And then and again, I was accumulating all these ideas, and I thought I should organize this into a book. So the first half of the book is all examples of some of my favorite drummers, everybody, Tony and Lenny White and John Bonham, and all the examples of great phrasing I've heard, or not all of them, but some of them. And then the second half of the book is sort of technical ways to get to phrasing and stuff. So I think it's pretty good. And then I recorded myself playing most of the examples, so you can download those audio examples too. So it's cool.
It's good you just mentioned you like phrasing. It's an important thing, like for also not just for that technical aspect, but the musical aspect too. That will make a like kind of signature Paul Delong. When you play, people will know it's your pattern. the way you will play them in studio, and I'm sure that helped your career too.
Well, I think for me, a drummer I can hear a drummer who doesn't have a concept of phrasing right away, because it's more boring and straight. The idea of getting over the bar line and big phrases over like 4 bars, say, or something.
Mm-hmm.
It always appealed to me, and I always heard it even from a young age. So I think it helps with musicality for sure. Like it makes it more interesting.
I'm 110% agree with you on that. Yeah, it's a very good challenge. Even when you play jazz, for example, you just said 4 bars. Some people they won't respect those 4 bars. Like depending of the bass or whatever. And when you have good phrasing, you will talk with the other musician.
Exactly.
And that's gonna be more musical and more inspiring for the people listening or watching a show or jazz or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very cool. Talking about playing, you have a crazy list of players, man. And I wanted to ask you, how was to play with Kim Mitchell? I've seen him a few times, and it's a great musician. How was to play with him for years?
Oh, it was great. It was really good, especially early on. I would say to him, what do you want me to play? And he'd say, just be intense. And I love that, because it was like, I was always listening to fusion and prog and stuff. So I tried to inject that into some of Kim's stuff, and he was all for it. It was great. Later we got more commercial and it wasn't quite as much fun, but we had a great time. And on the road, man, we did some amazing gigs, and it was a good experience, really good.
Do you have any good memories, like one memory in mind, pop up in mind about a show or something you want to tell us?
I think the second time we headlined at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto is always a thrill for me, because I had seen the Who there and Hendrix and geez, you name it, I saw them there, and then I'm on that stage, and it felt good. Same thing with Massey Hall in Toronto, very famous venue. I'd seen a million groups there, and to be on, I remember then we played there, and our first album had just gone gold, and it was like the place was sold out, and it was just like a magical night, But there's many great memories like that. Yeah, really, really good.
This is cool. You just mentioned like playing on a stage of the Who, for example, and you're there. But you're realizing that when you play, or even just setting up your drum or making a sound check, it's bring you the chill, like you can like, oh wow, that's something special.
Yeah, totally, man. Like wow, like I saw Matt Vishnu. I'm a Matt Vishnu freak, and I saw them at the Gardens. So and here I am. I'm doing a solo at Maple Leaf Gardens, and on that same stage that Billy Cobham did his thing. So yeah, I get chills thinking about it right now. Like it's like heavy, man.
This is like well, you never know. Like another aspect, you're in the room, you play, and your famous artist, one of the artists you like, is in the room watching you. This is another thing. Sometimes can bring you the chill. Sometimes, like one day, they told me Dennis Chambers was in the stage, like watching my show on tour, but I couldn't meet him after. I tried to reach out him, but he was gone. One day was Neil Peart. Neil Peart came. Actually, Neil Peart saw my show twice, but the 2 different shows. And but one time I talked with him, and
nice.
But you realize he's like, okay, Neil was in the room. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I've had a few of those experiences. I remember because I used to do drum clinics a lot, and I would do them with some famous guys. And I remember doing one. My goodness, you have a dog.
Yeah, I have a dog. Sorry, guys. I break the spirit.
That's okay. So I would do it like with Chester Thompson, or I remember doing one with Greg Bissonette, and I'm playing, and I'm hearing this hooting and hollering from the side of the stage, and Greg is over there cheering me on, like he's such a great guy. It's so supportive, and he's cheering, and clapping and stuff, and it was so cool. So pretty neat to be on the same stage with some of your heroes too, in a drum sense,
yeah, totally.
Really great.
Yeah, totally. And Greg I agree with that. I saw him twice. Twice, 2 times in during drum clinics, and I remember he was telling us he was recording. He just put songs, man, random songs of he did, like Celine Dion, like whatever, like singer, and it was so cool to see him playing the song.
Yeah.
So tight, but so musical and breathing
Mm-hmm.
all the time and all the man. I remember that, and I was young. I think first time I saw him, I was 15 years old. Something
Yeah.
like that.
No, he's a heavy musician.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about that, you did a lot of drum clinic. You did a lot of drum fest. What you like to show, or like how you prepare. When I was a kid, I was like a bomb, so I didn't know how to control myself, and I too much ideas, you know. Now I am older, and when I go, I'm breathing, and I know how to manage my things, and I know what I like to show and what I want to demonstrate or talk with the audience. How about you? How you prepare your things when you do those experiences?
Well, once I had drum books, then I would just, I would have some handouts with examples from the drum books, and I would go through those things, but which was good. But I realized too that people want to be entertained and stuff, so I would always mix it up. So I would do just playing, and talking and answering questions, but also trying to be educational and present some ideas that they could take home on this piece of paper, and maybe it would make them go out and buy the book too.
Yeah.
But it was always a combination, because I mean, you can overdo one of the entertainment. Like you see guys, when I first started doing clinics, I would come out and play a 20-minute drum solo and say, any questions? And and then a guy from Sabian said, Paul, you play good, you play great, but that's not enough. You got to get. So then I hired friends of mine to do play-alongs for me, like famous fusion tunes that I liked, and they did these play-alongs without drums. So I would play to the tracks, and that took it up a notch. That was really good, I thought. And then I started adding the educational material. So I sort of, from watching other guys, and just I finally sort of got it together. And then by the time I really had it together, they didn't want me for clinics anymore. So it's.
Wow. I think it's waves, man. I think there's years, and right now clinics are less popular than before. Before, I remember it was a hang. You go to Steve Music or whatever store, like Guitar Center in the States, it was full crowd. Now people are not less interested, but they will go more online. They're gonna check that out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that.
Before YouTube, definitely it was a really exciting thing to go see Dave Weckl or see any Proposio or any of these guys, do a clinic. Was a major event, and people weren't even, there was no phones yet to record it. You went and I used to have a hidden cassette recorder, and I would record, but it was like a major deal. But now there's so much stuff on YouTube. It's just like, you can't get people excited about any of that anymore, because they can just sit at their computer and watch it, which is, I don't know.
Yeah, but there's nothing compared to being in front of the player.
Yeah.
When you see that person right there, because there's things you cannot notice online. For example, I will give you an example with you. You're like very balanced drummer. I mean, you will, like, your level of hi-hat, snare, kick is very well balanced.
Oh, thank you.
But you can online on a recording, but if you see that in person, it's hard to, it's different. I don't know how to describe, but you can really notice those things. And when you try to reproduce that, some people, they cannot. It's a lot of practice to do that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. It's something about seeing someone live and the sweat, and they see them going for it, and it's so cool,
Oh yeah, I remember I've seen Virgin Donati in Drumfest, a few times, but I've seen him at Baked Potato with a band, and nice. I swear it was completely another Virgil. I was playing super cool, a lot of things, and I was like, I mean, I think I was 3 feet in front of the bass drum.
Wow.
And seeing him, the relation with the bass player and the guitar player and how they were managing it, it's a school. You learn from them. It's crazy.
That's the best thing, too, to see people play with musicians, because there's this phenomenon. It's called Nam Show chops.
Nam Show.
Where guys, they're amazing and stuff, but you put them with a band and it's like useless. They don't know how to interact and stuff. So the true test of a drummer is what he can play with a band, and how he reacts and how he listens, to people. Whether does he listen or does he just out there for himself, So a lot to be learned.
This is true. You mentioned that I've seen Ronald Bruner Jr. with the keyboard player for Tribal Tech,
Scott
Kinsey, and Adrien Ferro on bass. They were doing a live thing, like a private show, but just said something so true. They were chopping, but they were so good at listening each other. They start a drum and bass song with a click track with like a pattern.
Yeah.
No headphones, no in-ears. They were like playing with the tracks.
Wow.
Super like fast. And after the show, I'm like, okay, those guys have chops, but they can play without a musician. It was super cool.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
This is, but yeah, like you just mentioned on the show too. Like the people, they will go playing drum in the booth.
Yeah.
For 20 minutes. But after that, let's go play like Mustang Sally. They can't,
It's true. It's absolutely true, man. Yeah, it's funny. I remember going to the NAMM show the first time and walking into, it was a Peisty booth or one of them, and Jeff Becker was playing with his brothers there. And Jeff was playing a groove, just a 16th note groove, funk groove. I got chills. The hair stood up my arms. The intensity of his groove, that was an eye opener, because he was just playing a 16th note groove like anybody else. But holy shit! Oh, sorry. He had
that's okay.
the what he had going on was deep, man. It was like heavy to see that, and different than all the chop guys, So
yeah, well. Cool. I will go a little bit back on teaching, because the time goes so fast. We're about 6 minutes. You are a teacher.
Yes.
You were teaching in Humber College. You are a writer for Modern Drummer. You did a lot of things. Are you teaching a lot online right now, or are you or not at all? Are you still teaching?
Yeah. I'm still teaching at Humber, but I'm doing it online right now, and until things get back to normal, hopefully. But 33 years is, but the online thing is actually going okay. Since my students have got the technology together, and we can actually play back. We can't play together, but we can play back and forth, and it's cool. So it's not bad at all. And I do a little bit of teaching at home, but I'm kind of scared of that these days, so I don't really do it, But it's mainly online now.
Yeah, like almost everybody. Yeah, the in person will back in 1 year, I think. So, like, some places in the world maybe, but I'm in general but it's great. It's great you're teaching for that many years in Humber, because it's a good college. I mean, it has a good name. It's one of the best in Canada, and there's a lot of how many drum teachers are over there? I don't remember. Like Mark, Larnell, and who's.
And then who has Barry Romberg and Lauren Nearing, and I think Joaquin is on board now, and Steve Mancuso.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so there's quite a few, but enrollment has been down and stuff, and it's been rough with the pandemic, because people are not, it's hard to do a music thing online. You can't have an ensemble and all the regular stuff that they would normally do, so it's a bit rough, but still. It's going okay, it's going fine.
I didn't think about that. The ensemble, like the big band or things like that. It's a hard thing, and this is hard thing. I remember I've seen guys like Peter Eskin and playing big bands, and that bring me the chill. And when the kids can play in a big band, I always say it's a good school, because it's not like your rock band with the guitar, the bass. No, you have like 10, 12, I don't know, maybe 20 musicians with you, and you need to rock, keep the rhythm. It's something. This is where you realize you have the lead, and you need to be solid,
Yeah, it's huge. That's a very good point. It's all about musicality, driving the band, catching the figures, it's a lot, and it's great. Yeah, I love it a lot.
Punches. It's been a while and play in big band, but I did a little master class in a high school like 2 years ago. I played with the big band of the highest musician, and like maybe they were 16 years old, something like that. But I was rusted, so so I was reading the chart, but it took me a few time for back on track. But it's okay after that. But when I didn't do that for 20 years, for example, reading big band and the punch, it's a language. So when you remember the language, the punches, you can anticipate them and punch them. It's cool. I really like it.
I think it rubs off on all your playing too. I think it really helps with all your playing. Like, it's cool. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. What are you on right now? What is the kind of music you're listening or practicing, or what is driving you right now?
Well, I have a band of my own called One Word, and we play all Mahavishnu stuff. So
I saw that.
Yeah, and I have a Billy Cobham set of fives in my basement right now. Even though I endorse Gretsch, I got these fives and to play with my band. But I've been going down every day and playing those drums a lot, and it's kept my sanity, or what's left of it. And I've been working on my open-handed playing and just and working on all those tunes and stuff. So that's sort of my main focus these days, But and at the same time, over on my Gretsch drums with all the mics set up, I've been recording a lot for people and doing a lot of different things and doing some videos and stuff. So it's a balance of things, But that's sort of my life right now.
Yeah. Are you doing with Mahavishnu? How many musicians are you? Exactly the same number of musicians?
Yep. The same thing. It's a really good band. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mahavishnu was a big influence to me. Like a so good band. Mentioning about people like freaking out in the room. When I did my first drum fest in Montreal in '99, we're doing the Yamaha Showcase Rising Star, and one of my co-drummer, it was doing Spectrum.
Oh, nice.
And Billy was in the room.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And he's like, I'm freaking out, guys. I don't know what's happened. I say, well, you have to deal with it. I saw Billy a few times, but last time I saw him was in San Francisco at the Yoshi, and he was playing with his jazz band. They were like 4 person on stage plus him, so a 5-piece band.
Right.
Super cool, very relaxed. He was playing with a 5-piece kit, not the huge set.
Yeah.
So, but it was cool. Very, very good. Like jazz, samba, bossa nova song, but very like Latino jazz kind of approach. I really dig it. Yeah.
Well, he can do it all. Yeah, he's amazing.
He's a machine.
And, incredible.
Just I don't know if you remember when he's doing his press roll on the 25 cent a buck. It's an intense guy. Hey, it's over. I know. We could talk more. Please tell us where the people can reach you or see you, or what you have to like books. You have things people can where they can get your books, for example.
Okay, well, if you go to www.pauldelong.com, you can everything is there. All the links to the books, you can get hard copies or e-version of the books. There's some videos there. There's a lot of audio there. I have a drum channel on YouTube, but it's under the name Great GS52, Great Gretsch Sound 52. Yeah, and it's under that name, but you can search that out on YouTube. I think that's about it. Yeah, if anybody wants to study, they can with me or online or whatever, or have me record something. They can contact me through my website. There's a contact thing. They can send an email to me. So that's about it, I think.
Well, that's a lot. Anyway, it's a lot of places. Well, I wish you good luck, Paul. Stay safe.
Same to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Keep your good work, and next time I'm gonna go in Toronto area. Let's try to hook up.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great.
Let's wait a bit. The pandemic will pass, and I think in 6 months it should be fine.
Okay, it's a deal, man. For sure. Thanks for having me. That's fantastic.
It's my pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, my friend. Bye-bye. Bye. Thanks you for Paul. Like I mentioned, he has a YouTube, like a Facebook. Feel free to go check that out. And don't forget to subscribe if you didn't know. You can subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook of Drumfield Cafe. We have a website running since December 2020. You're more welcome to go look at it. All the information are on that website or mostly on the Facebook. And if you have any question, feel free to contact us. So let's go with the last artist of the day. You have a very big resume, big bio, so I will try to shut it on. So he played with Nelly Furtado, Rufus Wainwright, Boy George, Josh Groban, Richard Marx, Paul Schaefer, Billy Ray Cyrus, Natasha Bedingfield. I played in many big television shows in Canada, like the Canada Idol, the famous Mike Bolin show. So let's go see him right now. Hey, Wilson Laurencin, how are you doing, my friend?
Excellent, Eric. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Hey, thanks for accepting, like I mentioned before the show. I'm very honored you'll be on the show.
Thanks for asking me. I'm honored.
So now we are in your basement.
Exactly. Yep. Where I record my stuff, my drums set up here. I have recording equipment over there as well, and I write songs and I record drum tracks for people and for myself as well.
Oh, that's cool. How was the pandemic like with recording? Did you record some tracks, some albums, or
during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always been recording for people. So during the pandemic, yeah, I've been doing various tracks for people, in addition to recording stuff for myself, my own songs that I'm writing.
Oh,
so
cool.
Hopefully in the future, my stuff will get out there and people will be able to hear it.
What kind of stuff are you recording? I mean, your music. What is your what are
my
your roots?
stuff? My stuff that I write is all over the map. So because I mean, I like jazz, I like rock, I like funk. I get to play many different types of music. So yeah, my stuff is all over the map. And yeah, when it comes out, people will get to hear it and hopefully they like it. But yeah, it's not one style at this point.
I got it. And yeah. How you work with the other instrumental part? Do you go with the same musician or you go pick it up, like you pick up some different people all around?
It's kind of funny is that I wouldn't call myself a keyboard player, but I actually play all the keyboards on my stuff.
Okay.
And the drums, and I will get a friend of mine who plays sax. He's in Hong Kong. He plays on my stuff.
Okay.
And a friend of mine who plays guitar here, he'll play guitar. And then I have a few bass players that I work with. So I will send them the tracks. They will put their part on, send it back to me. And that's how I do it, and I put it all together myself here.
That's the magic of internet now. We can, like you just mentioned, you have a friend from, like he's living in Hong Kong and he can send you tracks. It's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, we could have done that. Like, just think about 15 years back. I remember my first big production shows I did like back in 2002, 2001.
Right.
The internet was so bad. It took like forever to get MP3s and charts. And we have to listen the tracks of the composer in a car. But you have to burn them on a CD, put them in a car and listen to them, and this is like 17 years ago. So
yeah, I know technology has moved fast. So,
Oh yeah, it moves so fast. Well, today I want to talk a bit about like a few things with you, because you have a good background playing in a house band on TV, for example.
Right. Yeah.
And I would like to approach that because a lot of the people watching the show, they don't know how you can make those like gigs. You need like to read. You need to know even just the cues on stage and stuff like that. So I want you you talk a bit about that. For example, when you were making the Mike Bolin show, I mean, it was a big show in Canada. What was a day, for example, of one day for one show? An example of one show per day, for example.
Right. So essentially what happened was this. It was a 1 hour show. And the show was on the air for 7 years.
Yeah, I know.
A long time. So some years, some seasons, we actually went live to air. So what that meant was we didn't record. So we were on a couple of different channels. So one channel we were on live to air. So once we were on, we were on. So anything happened, that's what everybody saw.
Exactly.
We couldn't go back and edit or anything.
There's no way.
But some years it was recorded and then edited and then went to broadcast. So, but the typical day was, just going to the TV studio, sitting down in the band room, talking with the other musicians, the musical director. He would get what was called a rundown, which would give you, the time that the person was going to be either sitting on the chair next to the host or a band or something else was going on, or a taped bit. So we'd have a rundown to tell us what was going to happen throughout the show. And then if there was music needed, he would write next to that cue on the rundown, he would write down a music cue. But in our case, he would write down a number, because back then what happened is we did it for 7 years, and we ended up with a book,
For sure.
I don't know, literally 3-4 inches thick of music, of cues, several hundred.
That's a Bible.
Exactly, yeah. So we would just pick numbers. He would get the rundown, pick the numbers.
Poof.
We would sit around in our dressing room until we were called up to rehearse, if there was time. Sometimes there was no time to rehearse for the band, because we've been there so long. We were on the back burner. They didn't care about us. So if we would go up to rehearse, we would rehearse for 5-10 minutes, just go through the pieces. If we had to, anything new, we would go through it, and then do the show. Meaning we'd go up, we would warm up the audience for 15 minutes before the show. We'd play some music, talk to the audience until it was time to record. And then they would let us know, and then we would start the show, and we would be sitting there for the hour. So we wouldn't be stopping the show and saying, okay, let's go back to this cue or go back to the top or anything like that. So it wasn't anything like that. So essentially we went in, rehearsed, did the show, and that was it. Now, sometimes what would happen would be we would be backing up a guest.
Oh, for sure.
So in that case, we had to go in earlier.
Okay.
And rehearse with the guests. We would get the music ahead of time, get charts ahead of time, go in early to the studio, rehearse with the guests, meet the guests, make sure everything was cool with the guests, and then go through what we needed to do with the guests. And then when the time came in the show, we would play with the guests. A lot of times we wouldn't play where our band was situated. We had a certain part of the set was the band stage, and we would perform on the main part of the set. So I'd have a whole different setup somewhere else, where I would play with the artist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
It's interesting because I didn't know that. I was thinking you were rehearsing on stage morning, so it's a good cue, because I might say, what was the main reason the studio was? They were making slide stuff and other things in the studio. That's why you couldn't use the main stage to rehearse, or.
No. We always rehearsed for the show in our position. So
okay.
We would never rehearse in our room
in a rehearsal
somewhere
studio
else, or a rehearsal studio. No, we'd always rehearse. Just because we've done it for so long, we didn't really need to rehearse that much. We rehearsed for 10 minutes. Unless, like I said, there was a guest we had to play with, then we would have to go in early in the studio, in the place. So they would do they would be doing camera like angles while we're rehearsing. They'll be like looking at angles and camera angles and such. So that's why we would do it in place in the studio. So it's really efficient that way too, right?
And it's cool. After 7 years, I'm sure you knew so much the physical cues of your like musician partners.
Right.
You only need to see one hand going in the air, and you know you're going to do that and do this, and it's fun.
I mean, there's a couple of things that we figured out and tricks that we had, but it's essentially like playing a regular gig, except you're playing shorter pieces of music.
Oh yeah, it's like it's
exactly.
in and out.
So we would go to and sometimes you would go to commercial playing a cue. Sometimes you would play through the whole commercial break for the audience, and sometimes we would have to stop because they needed to fix something on a camera or something. They needed us to be quiet, and then they would give us a countdown: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, coming back.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to start up the same piece again, coming back, and make it look like we're playing all the time. So I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of doing the gig, like you said, but you definitely have to read music. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
As far as a musician, otherwise it would be extremely hard to do.
Yeah, because those are lead sheet, and you just said something. Of course, you have artists. They're coming on stage. They're like let's say a feature artist and they're very professional, and they have charts and they know their things. And the person that out of the keyboard maybe wrote those charts for that artist. But there's
Exactly.
other artists, it's not like that. It's almost an Akin chart, like you have to. It's a bar with like 8 and the chords maybe. So you have to figure it out. So it's a big challenge.
Yeah, and backing up artists, even outside of television show, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go with the artist. So even though you have to have big ears on top of the chart, because sometimes an artist may not be one of those types of people. He plays by feel, so he's not stuck to a chart. He never uses a chart. So you kind of have to use your chart, use your ears, and follow him at the end of the day. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because my first time I saw you playing live was at the Montreal Drum Fest long time ago. And I remember in the audience, somebody asked, because there's like a question and answer, like a Q&A at the end, and someone asked you a question, how many hours are you practicing drums per day? And you said, I don't practice. I play music. I just play drums.
Yeah.
So that's a good example. Like, you're playing the music. When the artists are coming, you don't have that much time. You know the song, you know how to read those charts, and let's go. And it's a good example of how prepared you need to be for those gigs.
Yeah, I mean, and you just have to, like I said, you get their music ahead of time, so you listen to it, you look at the chart, you listen to it, you try and get into their headspace and do the best you can, right? And it's a lot of different styles of music too. So the other part of it is you have to be pretty, diverse when it comes to playing different styles of music, right? From jazz to rock to funk,
super versatile.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. I mean, whatever. I mean, you can't say to them, I don't play that style of music.
Yeah, I know. And this is something in Canada, for example, it's a good thing. We have a lot of music style. We have a lot of diversity. But you cannot be like in Cuba, for example. You will play Cuban music and it's that. You know what I mean? You need to know a lot of stuff. You need to, you don't need to be the best cha-cha drummer, but you need to know, okay, cha-cha, let's go to, and you know how to play the roots, And this is a good example.
Important. Yeah, it's very
Talking
important.
about diversity, I was named a few artists you played with. And that's actually pretty diverse. Let's say you pass from Nelly Furtado to Boy George. I mean, it's quite cool. So, but is there one of those artists you can say that was a special experience? That was a funny experience. Like, I mean, it was very different for the context. Is there something in one artist in mind you can tell us, like like some funny experiences or something strange or different?
Not off the top of my head, because you're asking me like off the cuff. But I will say this. There was one person that I played with that comes to mind that was kind of really cool for me personally.
Okay.
And that was George Duke. So George Duke?
Yeah, for sure, George Duke.
So he came onto the show to play. He played with us for the whole evening. Sat in with the band playing because he was promoting his album. So George Duke was special for me because not only was he a great, amazing keyboard player, and he was a great, really nice guy, but when I was young, and one of my first influences as far as drums and music was Billy Cobham.
Oh yeah, that's funny you said. Yeah.
So, and I used to have a bunch of Billy Cobham albums, but the one Billy Cobham album that I used to listen to a lot was Billy Cobham George Duke album live.
Yeah, I know. I have that one.
I wore it out. So when I got to play with actually George Duke,
like, whoa!
I mean, from a kid listening to this guy, so for me, those types of things are kind of special. Or the guy from Supertramp when I played with Roger Hodgson.
Wow.
Roger Hodgson from Supertramp, and he's singing the songs and playing the songs. I'm like, crimes of the century. They're Supertramp.
It's a classic.
I'm listening to the guy in my monitors, and I'm playing with him. It's like, wow, that's like, moments like that for me are cool. Just because
it's a cool experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And most of the time, those guys are super cool. They're gonna look at you. I was good. Did I play well? Yeah, we're very good, my friend. All cool. They're super honest and super nice person. But it's funny because I was talking with Pat Magadini the other day, and he played with George Duke too. So so it's a small world. I mean, you never know who you're gonna play with. And which artists you tour the most, like the longest tour, or like something like more impressive tour you have in mind, or you can tell us you tour with?
Nobody in particular, because everything I did was short as far
A
as
short.
travel. I mean, my mainstay as a musician has been in television in Canada for like a lot of years, even
Right.
before the Mike Bullitt show and after the Mike Bullitt show. I mean, I've done so much stuff on TV.
It's great.
You know, all the award shows, all the Canadian award shows, the national shows, Canadian Idol. I've done even Hockey Night in Canada. I've recorded
Yeah.
music for that.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, tons of shows, Canadian shows for many years. So I mean, that's been my staple. Even though that's not what I pursued, I didn't mean it to be that way. It just turned out that way.
And it's a dream work for a lot of drummer and musician out there. So you can be proud of that. It's super nice. It's a good experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that, I mean, most people will never get the chance to do that kind of work, and especially now because there's even less of it because of the internet, and people don't watch TV the way they used to.
No, it's
so exactly, it's a completely different out there now. So yeah, I mean, you're from Montreal, and you know, in Quebec they used to have a lot of TV talk shows, right?
Yeah,
So,
but now it's going back. They have a lot more. I'm not there right now, but I don't watch TV much. But but they're back on that a bit more, with more live musician.
Okay. Yeah.
But because it's funny what you mentioned, because things have changed. When I was kid, I was every night, or if I couldn't, even at 12, 13 years old, I was watching Jeleno, or like
Right.
you know, David Letterman, Saturday Night Live, and all those shows. And it's funny because like I think 10 years ago, I played at the Jeleno show, and and I met him 2-3 times. So, and it was very cool when you're there, but you're an artist on stage with them. They're super nice. It goes with the flow. But this was a culture of night shows, you know, like late night shows and stuff like that. It changed, but I was, and I'm still a big fan of those shows. So, but I never did those late night shows. I never played like you do. So this is something I would like to have in my pocket one day to add to my card.
Yeah, it is fun to do, but at the end of the day, you know, it's like any gig. It's, you know, it turns into a job, right? Not a bad job, but it turns into a job, right? And you know, and everything that a job entails. So, but it was great to do.
Yeah, and now do you because now you were playing like, I mean, on stage, on TV, but are you teaching? Are you a teacher, or do you do some teaching stuff on the side?
No. I mean, I teach. If somebody sends me an email and says, I want to get a lesson with you, then I'll teach. But I don't pursue it. I don't, you know, if somebody wants a lesson, sure, send me an email. We can do it now over Zoom or whatever.
No, I was asking because I know a lot of people are teaching now. So I was only asking if you said something.
No, you are correct. A lot of guys are teaching, especially older guys. They're teaching. Which is great, but it's not something that I ever pursued. I have one student that I've had for like 4 years that I teach once a month, but it's whenever somebody contacts me. It's not something I pursue. I just love playing music, right? So that's it.
Yeah, I understand that. And what are your coming project now? Like, I mean, like not just your own project, like artists you will work with. Do you have some stuff coming out for 2021?
At this point, since March, I've done nothing live, just recording a bit for people individually. The next live gig I supposedly have is in February.
Okay.
And it's at one of the colleges. It's for a whole week. It's backing up, I guess, their student recitals or something. Yeah. So it's for like 4 days or something like that. It's supposed to be in February. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen based on, you know, COVID and all that stuff. So we'll see. But outside of that, no. I mean, I have a guy that I play with, and we've gone to Asia a couple of times.
Okay.
And he wanted to go this year, but we couldn't go. So I don't know if that's going to happen in the coming years. So yeah, I don't know. At this point, who knows?
Step by step.
Yeah, it's like everybody. It's up in the air right now. We're waiting to see how things develop. You know.
Yeah, it will back. It will back. Will take times, like a year or two, for be back to reality.
Yeah.
But will take time.
Yeah, but in that time, you still need to do something, right? I mean,
yeah.
You know, so that's why a lot of people are teaching and recording at home, like I do. So
yeah, but well,
keep busy.
it's a way to keep busy. The time fly. We're about 2 minutes, and I want to ask. Yeah, it's super fast. I want to ask you where the people can do to because if they don't know you, where they can see video of you, or performances or albums. Do you have something you can tell us where the people can reach you for specific music things?
Well, bigbeatmusic.com.
Okay.
That's my one of my websites, as well as wilsonlaurencin.com. So wilsonlaurencin.com will have info about me, what I use, gear I use, who I've played with. And then on YouTube, if you go to Big Beat Music on YouTube, search that out, or my name, there's a few videos online of me. Hopefully I'll be able to do some more now that I've kind of dressed up my surroundings so it doesn't look ugly. And I'll try and do some more videos. Yeah.
Yeah,
so just search my name online and you'll find stuff.
Yeah, because sometimes people are very curious and they don't know where. I know YouTube is usually the best place to get videos, but sometimes you can tell us, I did that album, or you can see me on that thing, and we're gonna go get it directly, So, but cool.
Search me on Google, and you'll find some stuff on
me. And you were saying, just for finish, you were mentioning where people can see your gear and all that stuff. So, are you still using Yamaha kit and?
Yeah, I'm using Yamaha drums, Zildjian cymbals, Remo drum heads, Vic Firth drumsticks. And I've been using all of these companies' gear for 20 plus years.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So I've been with Yamaha for 20, I don't know how many years. Zildjian's the same. They sent me a certificate, Zildjian, a little while ago to say 20 years or something. And cool. Remo's the same thing, and Vic Firth is the same thing. So I'm pretty loyal to the companies. I mean, I'm low maintenance, so I guess they don't mind me. So,
it's cool.
It's all good gear, but everybody makes good gear now, all the major manufacturers. So it's just find what works for you, stick with it, and you'll be okay.
I agree with that. I'm 100% with that. I do the same. I've been with DW for 22 years now, and
exactly, yeah.
So it's an example. Remo is the same. Well, it's done, man. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for be there and for your cues and all. I hope the people watching the show, they got a lot of that. And I wish you all the best. Stay safe. And
thank you very much. And by the way, thank you for having me, but also all the best with Drum Cafe, and hopefully things go very well and you're online for many years.
Yeah, Phil's Cafe will be a year now, so we're hoping it's gonna work out for years. So it's a fun project.
Okay. Well, I'll be watching.
Yeah, I hope so. Hey, stay safe, man. Take care.
All right, you too. Cheers. Bye-bye. All the best.
Bye-bye. Thanks for Wilson. If you don't know, you can go, like we just talked about, you can go check it out, some videos of him on YouTube or Google. Just for finish, we're going to have another World Show next month. Please look at it. If you don't know, this is the 3rd season. You can always go on the drumfillscafe.com. You're going to have all the shows we've done for the past year. And we also have like a Facebook, an Instagram, and a Facebook. And we have a lot more information in those platforms. So stay tuned. Take care. Bye-bye.